Everybody. Welcome. Move up here a little bit. Welcome to day 17. Uh, Interesting day 17. I I'm probably going to, I don't know, release too much. Maybe, that's what this whole thing is about, because I think when you tell your truth, I think it inspires others when you tell your truth, because I think if you can inspire people with your truth, it does something for them, if that makes any sense. So on this day 17, I want to talk about money, and I'm not just talking about just money. I'm talking about me personally, and money. You know, as we grow older or whatever, we I don't know if we necessarily have in our head of an ideal salary of what we want to make, and what we what is considered a lot of money. Years ago, I used to teach a GED class, and I never forget the GED students talked about, and these were adults, by the way, talked about money, and their idea of what a lot of money was. And it baffled me, because to them, a salary of $30,000 a year was to them a lot of money. And then I said to myself, I said, geez, if I made $30,000, I would die. But it was amazing, our concept and our perception of what a lot of money is. And what's interesting is that as we go along in life, and a lot of us, not every one of us, but we get to these jobs, and we make a little bit more money, and even though our lifestyle doesn't change much, we spend more, and we buy more, and we do more reckless things. And it's sad when I look at the amount of money that has come through my hands, and it's just gone. I unfortunately have been a person that my entire life is that, I've always used money as a means to make sure this is okay, make sure this person okay, make sure that okay. And then I go through this process of, oh, well, I've taken care of everybody, so I want to take care of myself. That in turn sometimes can ruin you. And one of the videos that I said before is that I actually was bankrupt. I personally went through a bankruptcy, and I'm going to tell you something. It was one of the most horrific things you can go through, because not thinking, I put myself through a process that I thought was helping me, when in regard, it actually made it worse. And then when you're married and you're thinking this is going to get fixed, and it doesn't, you go through this process of literally the hole just gets deeper and deeper. This is the first time in my entire life, at 49 years old, that I am just starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. People, I was, before I was at the company where I'm at now, I was at another company, and I was making a pretty decent salary. I don't know what people's definition of a decent salary is, and I don't know what people's definition of, making great money is. Some would say six figures, making over $100,000 a year is a great salary, where you'll have some people that make $50,000 a year, and to them that's a great salary. Statistics shows that you're supposed to make how old you are. You're supposed to make that, supposed to be the minimum of what you make in your life, like as you go along. That's what statistics show. But it's really strange, because for me, as a person that was at a previous company, and I was making a pretty decent salary, way over $50,000 a year, I still was struggling. It just seemed like every time you turned around. But then what was also happening in that process is I was going through a nasty divorce. There was no pre-planning with money. And see, I had to take a step back and look, and I realized something very, important. And there's going to be a lot of people that's going to agree with me of what I'm about to say. When we were kids, money was not discussed. When we were kids, and again, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm talking about me when I grew up. And I grew up in a household with a mother and a father. I was never taught about money. We never sat down and we never had a discussion about money. This is how you pay bills. This is what you do. You know, and the crazy thing is, like, when I turned 16, 17 years old, I had a little job. My parents cared less what I did with my money. So what did I do? I shopped. I did what I want. My parents didn't, I was not in that type of household where I had to contribute to anything. They were just like, okay. That's it. And my parents still gave me money. It was like, it just, as time went on, I was never sat down about how to pay bills. I saved a little money, bought a building, and you know, some of my good friends, they've been in that building. They know about my duplex I had. I lost it because of poor planning and lack of knowledge about money. So to go through this process and that you find out that you're becoming bankrupt because you trust in all these individuals. I was married and lost a building. I was married because I trusted in somebody. We didn't sit down and come up with a financial plan. And this is what I'm going to tell you, like the day is long. For those that are out there that are in relationships, I don't care if you get married or not, when you decide to be under one roof together, it is imperative that you develop a financial plan. If you two are in agreement to sit down and be in a relationship before you both have matching keys, you better make sure you are sitting down at a dining room table and pulling out those credit reports and sitting down and coming up with a financial plan. I will never, ever in a million years do what I did in my first marriage. I'll stay by myself. And as time went on and time goes on, I started to realize that I didn't, as much as now I'm a person that's been in finance for 20 something years. I have no problem knowing corporate finance. I've dealt with billions of dollars, managed billions of dollars. And it's so funny how most of us that are in finance have a hard time with our own personal finances. So I knew where I was going through this terrible situation with an ex-husband trying to regain some momentum. The house was falling. Like everything hits you at once and then you're not prepared. So as I am at the time being faced with a foreclosure, my only end result was to do a bankruptcy. I mean, you know, you could take a car. I could care less about a car. But when they just, you know, when you're in a position of where they're threatening your home, you rethink your plan. So this is what I did. I rethought my plan, and that actually was the worst thing I could have ever done because it put me in a position where I was doubly responsible. If anyone's familiar with a Chapter 13, you agree to pay your creditors. Like it's a crazy process. So I had to get a grip and say to myself, what are my options? So I say this to you. When you're faced with money situations, the one thing you don't want to do is turn your back on them. Because see, they get worse. And they get worse. And they get worse because it's out of sight, out of mind. You're like, I just don't want to deal with it. So my only solution at the time was to, in order for to deal with it, was to say, I'm going to save my home. And I'm going to learn my own personal money management. So the only other result as well was, what can I do to increase my salary? Now, I have a multitude of businesses that I want to develop, but at the end of the day, it requires money. So I said to myself, the only end result is to find a better job. And this is where I say, because I've seen tons of posts out there where people have tried to say education doesn't mean anything and this and that and the other. Education makes you competitive. And I'm going to tell you, as the day is long, if I did not have my MBA, I would not be in the job I am today. There was a lot of people up for my job. and for what I do, it required an advanced degree. But it's so interesting because even being in a position 3 years ago where I was granted this amazing job with a $26,000 increase in salary, I still struggled. I mean, it was, but now don't get me wrong, my expenses to care for my mother are in the thousands per month. And being faced with those things and trying to get your momentum, you still have people in the background still judging you and telling you what you should be doing. Because when I shared on Facebook that, you know, this happiness of me getting this great new job with this amazing increase in salary, the first thing people do is say, oh, you moving? You buying a car? No, I'm not. Because in their mind, this is what they see. They see the progression of money and say, well, to you, in order for you to fit in what we believe you should be, and you got this increase in salary, we're saying to you that you need to move from where you are. You need to purchase a new car. You need to do all these things. And at the end of the day, those are the things that got you in trouble from the first place. So I say this to people that are moving into their 50s, but be smart about your money. Stop making decisions that are decisions that people believe you should be doing. You've got to cut it off at some point. You got to stop saying you're going to move and get mortgages. And you got to think, if you're getting a 30-year mortgage and you're 50, that means it's going to be 81 when the thing is paid off. And the other thing, too, about that is you got to be mindful is that a lot of mortgage companies won't even give you a 30-year mortgage because of your age. I have learned so much about personal finance. I had to get bailed out by a friend because I was in so much trouble. So it's like you've got to take a second look and you've got to be smart about money moving into 2019. Think twice before you spend some major money. Make sure you have a plan. And I'm going to say this to you too. Even if you're in a current relationship with somebody and you just paying bills or whatever, sit down with that person and really take a look at everything you have. Talk to your children about money. I've talked to my daughter about money. I've showed her how to pay bills in a house because it wasn't done to me. You have to be smart about money. You have to make sure that what you're doing is, I'm sorry, I got an incoming call. You have to make sure you are smart about money. You have to make sure that you are sharing in money responsibilities. Not saying you want kids to pay bills, but make sure they are financially prepared when they leave you. Make sure they understand due dates, checkbooks, and how everything goes. Make sure they understand credit. See, none of this stuff was explained to me. None. And I'm so grateful for now being in a position where I see light at the end of the tunnel, but not everybody is always granted that. You know, some people are so deep in that they don't even know how to get out. You know, it's a hard place to be when you don't have no money. I'm a person, I don't care how many degrees I have, I'm a person that lived in this house and my electric got cut off. I'm a person that lived in this house and my water got cut off. I live the truth of what's going on with millions of people today that make a great salary. So I made a solemn promise to myself that I'm going to live my life right here in my home. I'm not buying another home. I'll buy a car whenever I'm ready, but live in your own personal money truth. What if you just listen to yourself? And what if in 2019 you make smart decisions about your money? You're going to see a totally different 2020. Trust me. Thanks, everybody.